Night had closed in on us in this Mexican cemetery where I had come to experience my first Dia de los Muertos. Pásele, I said to the stranger as he moved toward me. On a narrow path between two grave sites, I stepped aside to let him pass. I was the outsider in this Camposanto. It's said that at this time of the year, the veil between the living and dead is thin, and the souls who come home for a visit need only a light to find their way. Here, in Jojocatlan, Oaxaca, the ground, the graves, and the crumbling ruins of the old church were lit up like by thousands of candles. The smell of burning wax was seductive and familiar, and their flickering lights created a golden threshold between earth and sky. The air held a thick cloud of copal, that sweet, pungent incense burned for prayers and blessings. Village women were busy cleaning around family plots and decorating with cempasúchil, flowers sacred to the Azteca, and always used in Dia de los Muertos celebrations. Atop the mounded plots were regalos for their returning loved ones. The offerings included mole, pan de muertos, mezcal, toys, and sugar skulls, evoking memories that became stories told throughout the night. Amid the quiet hustle and bustle, I pulled aside the woven shawl that sheltered my head from a light rain. Looking up, I came face to face with a beautiful, dark stranger. Everything about El Desconocido seemed different from others in the village. He was at least a head taller than most, and a thick black braid fell to his waist, contrasting with a white shirt and white pants. Our eyes met. His were the oldest, wisest eyes I'd ever looked into, yet the sparkle in them was youthful and animated. I thought of the Dalai Lama, Yogananda, Amaji, even Jesus. Embarrassed that I couldn't stop staring, I lowered my head as he passed. Our bodies almost touched, and I sensed an electrical current between us. A desire both sensual and sacred took my breath away. After he passed, I tried to pull myself together and began to look around for my friends. They were nowhere to be found, and I suddenly felt alone and out of place. I spotted a short stone wall beneath an ancient tree in a dark corner where I could witness, and hopped up on the cold, hard surface. And then I saw him. El Desconocido was walking towards me, advancing with the purposeful steps of a big cat in a familiar jungle. Hola, señora. ¿Puedo sentarme con usted? Catching my breath after a speechless gasp, I answered, sí, he could sit with me. Me llamo Salvador, he offered, and I thought, oh my God, Salvador means savior. It was an appropriate name for this man, whose face was described with charcoal eyes, perfect white teeth peering out from exotic lips, skin that glowed like dark copper. Did I imagine the aura surrounding his body? The deep voice resonated softly but with great power, and I felt it sink, settle into my body. Sitting beside him charged me with that same electrical wave that I'd felt earlier. I decided that he must be a god, plain and simple. And then I thought, no, he's a shaman, or one of those tricksters who possesses a kind of magic that compels people to fall in love with them. His English was much better than my Spanish, and our conversation centered around his questions to me. Who was I? Who was I with? I told him I was there with my husband, Kevin, my good friend, Doug, who had brought us along, Jorge, who had flown here from Russia, Judith, our Oaxacan guide. I think that half of me hoped he would understand that I wasn't available, and that would be the end of it. The other half of me hoped he wouldn't. Still, he sat there, waiting patiently for more mediocre Spanish to pour from my mouth. So I began my own series of questions. He responded that he was from Morelos, was here in the Campo Santo with a tour group. He asked me where I had been that morning, generating a discussion about Rodolfo Morales, whose studio I had visited. Assuredly, he responded that, sí, por supuesto, that is where we were supposed to have met. But he claimed the timing was off and he had arrived after I'd already gone. I thought surely this was the best line I'd ever heard from anyone, anywhere. Yet my gut turned inside out with a feeling that he was being honest. Salvador continued, revealing that he was an art dealer who worked with Morales on exhibitions, which made it seem plausible. He edged closer, probing my eyes as if to suck a reaction out of me, which gave me the opportunity to gaze further into his. The current running between us expanded my awareness, and feeling myself increasingly aroused, I determined that my only choices were to throw him on the ground under the tree behind the wall and perfect the art of sacred sex sin vergüenza, or walk away and try to find my friends and my husband. So I said adios to Salvador.